Love music. Live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David McKinnon on Rock Sport Radio.
Okie dokie, it's Thursday. Good to have you with us. Stay with us until 8 o'clock tonight. Another busy programme. We'll find out why Kelty Hearts have gone the Ferguson route. We'll speak to Christian Nadi about something we've been featuring quite often on the programme. And that's not to say that we shouldn't give it the space. It's the fact that it's becoming a growing problem. Depression that almost drove Christian Nadi to suicide. We'll hear from him. We'll talk to the father of a young man who makes a 700-mile round trip on a Friday night to play football on a Saturday for St Johnstone. We'll also talk to Mark Donaldson from ESPN about John Souttar and Ikpeazu being out for 5 months for Hearts and how that might impact on them. You can listen to us on DAB Digital Radio, online at rocksportradio.co.uk. You can use your smartphone using the TuneIn app and the Radiogram app, and you can also watch the stream live on Facebook, on Twitter and on Periscope. Being a Thursday, of course, Mr McKinnon in with me. How are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm feeling absolutely wonderful, Bill. Looking forward to it. I tell you, it's a busy show.
It is.
Lots of diverse and
we've got a wee bit to talk about, though, ahead of time, Davey.
Okay.
Let's kick off with Aberdeen. They bawled their eyes out about getting more tickets for the semi-final at Hampden. Actually, first of all, they bawled their eyes out about the time it was being played, and I had sympathy with them then, because the trains getting from Aberdeen were getting in 15 minutes after the game originally was going to kick off. That's all been changed now. But they wanted more tickets. In fact, they wanted parity with Rangers. And apparently to date, they've sold 9,000. And the SPFL are asking for tickets back now. So, let me ask you a question. I've always said that we're a very unique country in as much as 75% of all fans support two teams. But Aberdeen have been second in the league for the last couple of years. Has it given them a false impression of where they sit in Scottish football?
Well, I think Aberdeen, like many clubs I've been associated with, Dundee and Kilmarnock, sometimes, this historical thing of, we used to fill stadia, we had a great team, we won the league, and, Aberdeen always, and their supporters always revert back to the 80s when, under Alec Ferguson, they had such a vibrant team and won the league and the cups and obviously succeeded in Europe. So that kind of expectation still remains with the supporters of the club. The reality is, in those days, Pittodrie was filled almost to 21,000 capacity.
But Pittodrie, they're getting for home games at the minute
13 or something like that. Yep.
So they're still low. They're still down on their average home game.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But in those days, they were getting, up towards the capacity against all other teams, not just Rangers and Celtic. But those days have gone now, and I think that this expectation of taking half the gate down there. I think that's something that is gone and long gone to the past. And my understanding of it, that Aberdeen, their concerns was that they wanted a part of the stadia sold first, so that they could actually fill that with better, supposed better seats. Supporters might want the better seats first and foremost, but in reality, there's a lot of segregation, and the SPFL really had to hold back some tickets, because ultimately if Aberdeen didn't sell the tickets, then they would obviously give them to the opposition. Well, they got around
20,000 tickets, I believe.
Yeah,
roughly.
I've actually got it here in front of me, 20,300 tickets. And they said...
So they've not sold half of them?
Well, what they said was that the original share was going to be 16.8. So the SPFL upped it, and they've sold 9,000. So there will be people, there's 5,500 now available, but there will be people that will want tickets at the last minute. But, I don't think it does. I think...
What does it do for the credibility of Aberdeen when it comes to making a case for things similar to this in the future?
Well, everyone will revert to type and say, well, this is the reality of the situation. I think, inwardly Aberdeen, the board and the manager and everyone associated with the club will be very concerned that they were unable to sell their allocation.
How concerned should they be when they're moving to a bigger and a better stadium?
Well, you know, the crowds, I know you can't, it's not comparing apples with apples, but if you look at West Ham, for example, you know, they moved to the new stadium. I know a West Ham supporter who, you know, made that move, and they increased their obviously their attendances.
But they hate the stadium.
They hate the stadium. Arsenal went to the Emirates. You know, when I was at Arsenal, I think the capacity, given it was standing, was something like, I think it was there a Man United game one night, and it was something like just 46,000, maybe a wee slightly higher. But now they're getting up, 70s, 80s. Man United to the the reorganisation of their stadium, they're up now 76,000. But that's in England. In Scotland, I think it will become a concern for Aberdeen. But sometimes when you move to a new stadium, you attract a different type of supporter. You know, the corporate market that might think, well, that's it's a better stadium to take guests and so on and so forth. Because ultimately, I think that's where the additional, attendances will come from at Aberdeen, and that's what they have to target. Because I think, it's a declining fan base. I think there's no doubt about it, particularly when you see this.
It's a strange one for me, and I must admit my tweet today was a little unkind, but I felt that it was reflective.
Did you get any reaction to it?
I got lots of reaction to it. And then I honestly believe it.
Yep.
The only way that Aberdeen were ever going to sell half of the same amount of tickets as Rangers was to change their name to Celtic. There wasn't another way it was going to happen. And for Aberdeen to start, getting churlish over this, it now leaves them with egg on their face. And I don't like to see that from any club. I must admit, I don't. But this was never a good thing to bang a drum about, as far as I'm concerned, with Aberdeen, because even if they get the extra, if they've got the 5,000 available, having sold 9,000, that still takes them to 2,000 less than their original allocation was, and they weren't happy with that. No,
I know, and I think the thing is, with 10 days left, there'll have to be a cut-out point, to actually see. I don't know what the segregation will be, but I would imagine that Rangers fans will pick up the residue quite readily. I think they'll want them because I just think that Rangers now have a big support. They have support that follow the team. And I think these tickets, the quicker that they're put on public sale again, then the quicker they'll be picked up. Because what the SPFL won't want, and the other three teams, the four teams, what they do is they put all the monies together.
That's right, yeah.
And they split it, 4 ways after costs. There'll be, as we know, there are going to be extra costs with the Murrayfield move. But there's still, if there are unsold tickets, it basically hurts everyone. So, and also, it's a great spectacle, October the 28th. What a great spectacle it's turned out to. The venue should have been like that, and the timing should have been that from the start. Common sense would prevail, but it didn't, obviously.
No.
But I think not only Scotland will be looking at this Super Sunday, as they'll no doubt call it, the TV, BT Sport will call it, but I think throughout Europe, I think there'll be a big TV audience watching this.
Let's move on and speak about an old club of yours, Dundee, of course. Were you surprised that Neil McCann went on Tuesday evening? Because there was all the story, and we had Jim Jeffries on last night talking to us about Jim possibly going to assist Neil McCann. Jim said he had talks with both the chairman and with Neil McCann. They were very professional, very courteous. It looked, he gave it some careful consideration. Jim felt that where he is in his life now, it wasn't something he could commit to, and if he couldn't commit to it properly, didn't feel he should be doing it. And that makes sense to me. However, having gone through all that at the weekend with the chairman and Neil McCann, you would have thought that maybe the chairman then says to Neil McCann, is there anybody else that you have a preference to bring in that you think might want to come in? And the next thing you know, Tuesday, he's binned.
It was a strange one for me, exactly as the facts as you've laid them out, because I know Jim. He's obviously semi-retired. He likes his golf. He stays in Lauder on the Borders. It's a big trek for him, and he doesn't really want it at this stage of his life. But he's doing a great job at Edinburgh City, by all accounts. it surprised me that after they had looked to do that, is to give him some support, then they withdrew it and basically sacked him. You know, this is a name that we've bandied about for every time, every occasion in this programme, because he shouldn't be out of football. But I saw it as something that maybe Jim Duffy would have done, you know, even in the short term, maybe for 4 or 5 months, just to get the ship steadied a wee bit, because Jim Duffy knows the game inside out, he knows the club inside out, and as I understand it, and thinking back historically, I think Jim Duffy was the manager when Neil McCann was a Dundee player, so he knows the player well. Why they didn't, when Jim Jeffries said, no, it's not for me, why they didn't turn to Jim Duffy and say, Jim, come up and help us, is beyond me. But that's football, you know, sometimes with football things come out that you never ever envisage.
Well, you did hear Jerry Collins' prediction on Tuesday night. He thinks that Jim Duffy's a good candidate for Sean Maloney's job at Celtic with the youth development situation.
Well, that'd be great. Nobody better than Jim Duffy, but I still think that Jim Duffy, I think he still would be good as a frontline manager.
Duff, of course, being linked as a front runner again with Dumbarton now. I'm going to be blunt. I'll say it, and it's nothing against the Sons of the Rock, but Jim Duffy's better than Dumbarton Football Club.
Yep.
And I'm not just saying that because we both know Duff. I was born in Dumbarton, near as damn it, but at the end of the day, Dumbarton is down there. Jim Duffy, I think, a couple of leagues above that, definitely.
Yeah. As I say, go back to the thing, you know, making Jim Duffy director of football at Dundee would have been a wonderful move. It would have gone down very well with the supporters. He's hugely respected. I mean, I was a chief executive up there, and you know, every supporter spoke to me about Jim Duffy and the legacy. He was always, you know, coming to the club and things like that, and you know, he's loved and he's revered up there. So why that decision wasn't made, maybe Jim Duffy, I wonder whether he was approached, but you know, these things generally come out over the next couple of weeks, we'll find. But maybe it was something that when Jim Jeffries said, no, I'm not going to go, Neil McCann maybe just said, well, listen, that's it, enough's enough for me, I'm off, because a lot of pressure on him there. And I think once, you know, word leaks that a manager's maybe going to get us a bit of support in some capacity, sometimes the manager sleeps in it and he thinks, this is going to undermine me slightly.
Davey, a lot of stories coming out over the last few weeks, and none of them substantiated that I know of, but allegedly there were problems with Neil McCann in the dressing room. Certain players were being kind of blocked and blanked, and other players were unhappy at the kind of way that he was dealing with things. And as I say, they're all allegations. None of them are facts as far as I'm aware. I certainly haven't had any of them substantiated to me. But obviously there was a situation where the dressing room was kind of divided there, and it was split for whatever reason. Where do you think it started to go wrong for Neil McCann? Because my own theory is I think Neil McCann again was one of those managers who forgot which club he was at and wanted to play a certain type of football, and really didn't have the play. And it wasn't about quality this time. It was just about the players not being able to play the way he wanted them to play, because I don't think they were cut out for that kind of system and that kind of style of play.
Do you know where I think he first made the mistake?
Go on. Go in there?
No. When he moved Jerry McCabe out. Because I know from the past, when Jerry McCabe was there, he was the link between the manager and the dressing room. And Jerry McCabe, you know, he was on last night. Jerry McCabe's infectious.
Do I know him?
Jerry McCabe's infectious. He gets the dressing room on side. I've never had any player say to me, you know, that Jerry McCabe divides the dressing room. He bridges the dressing room. I also think, very strange to me, Darren O'Day, who's such a great leader on the park, you know, I don't think he featured under Neil McCann.
He was one of the players I heard had been blanked that McCann wouldn't even speak to.
Well, that's once a manager.
Allegedly.
I've had that in my career. You know, club captain of a club, and a new manager came in and basically got me lapping the track, didn't even speak to me, and I thought, have a bit of decorum, have a bit of manners. If you don't like me, then I'll move out. but don't do that. And that's
have a bit of class about it.
Well, no class. But sometimes, managers coming in and they think characters, big characters, because Darren O'Dea, I heard them once when I was at Hamilton, and Hamilton beat Dundee 4-0. It was I think it was one of the early games when Neil McCann came into the club, and Darren O'Dea ripped into all the players after the game, told them about standards, achieving standards, because he's a leader, and Neil McCann never get involved in that. And I thought to myself, that's a guy you want in your dressing room. Or
if you're Neil McCann, do you see him as a challenge to your authority?
That's exactly what I was going to say, Bill. Some managers think they're a challenge to his authority, and this guy's bigger than me in the dressing room. I need to be bigger than the biggest character, and he certainly is the biggest character. I don't know whether he's injured, whether he's been put to the youths or the reserves. But, when you've got a calibre...
I know he played a couple of games for the 21s.
Well, when you've got a calibre of player and him and a leader, get him into the team. So Jim McIntyre will recognise that. And, one thing about Jim McIntyre, he's a man manager as well.
Well, while we're talking about wee McCabe, the wee rascal last night, as you heard, didn't tell me he'd spoken to Jimmy Mack earlier in the day and knew that he was going to kind of tie things up with Dundee. So I swung it round and put the boot on the other foot with him and said, is he taking Dodsey, or is there a wee job there for you? And going down the stairs, he was still protesting that nobody had said anything to him. And when people protest that much, I guess Jerry would be great. Jerry would be great in some capacity back there in terms of the coaching staff at Dundee. Well, there's no two ways about it.
No, he is. And as I said, Bill, going back to the thing, I think that was the first thing. Two mistakes I think Neil McCann made, because I was close to it in some capacity without being into the nitty gritty of it. But Jerry McCabe, moving him out, and also Darren O'Dea not playing him, the captain of the team and the leader, and one of the things, both of those characters had huge respect in the dressing room. And sometimes when that leaves your dressing room, players start to say, it's not for me, and the managers come in, and one thing Dundee need, like every other team down in the bottom six, they need every player playing for them, for the manager and the club.
Yeah. A couple of wee bits and pieces coming in. Bill, knowing what wee McCann is like, do you think he'll tell how it was and what happened at Dundee?
Well, it'll be interesting whether this is his last stint in football management, and whether he goes back to his job at Sky. Because, there was a lot of debate at the time, why leave a job like that? Because one of the things as well, Bill, as you know, and you listen to pundits and people particularly in TV, that have never managed in their life, but they tell what's happening.
Oh, it's dead easy. Listen, look, I'm the best manager there is in this studio.
Well, yeah. Right.
Do you know what I mean? Easy for me to be critical of anybody and everybody. Well, should the occasion arise, and it's the same on TV.
Well, the big thing, remember Neville, went to... where was he? Went to Valencia as a manager. I think he quickly found out that jumping into the dressing room at Salford wasn't quite the same as Valencia. Huge club, big expectations, because it looks easy for the outside, it's difficult. I heard you last night talking to Jim Jeffries about giving football people, and and the link between the dressing room and I was going to text you, but I was driving, so obviously that wasn't going to happen. But when I was at Kilmarnock, I remember being called. I attended every board meeting, and get in, and on the agenda was the manager, whether they were going to move the manager. And I thought, what's going on here? What's happened is Jim had a lot of injuries, suspensions, and the club was finishing third and fourth in the league, definitely in the top six, and it had done so. There was £1 million come out the budget. Jim had to readjust, and a couple of the directors wanted it on the agenda, that the manager, to discuss whether the manager had a future at the club. And I listened, and I heard this, and no, he's lost. I hear he's lost the dressing room. I hear this, and he hears that, and I thought, what a lot of nonsense. So I just kept my powder dry. And they were even talking about, Terry Butcher's somebody said, Terry Butcher's a good manager, why don't we get him in? Right? So I just sat and I listened, right? And then Jamie Moffat, as the chairman, said to me, no, it wasn't the chairman, Sir John Orr was the chairman, Jamie Moffat was the owner. And he said to me, you're a football guy, what do you think? I said, I've never heard, with respect, gentlemen, I've never heard so much nonsense in my life. I said, £1 million out his budget, what he's working towards. He's got injured players, he's got suspended players. He's lost 2 in a row, but we're still sitting 5th in the league. Jim Jeffries will go in and win his next 3 games and get us back into where you think that we'll get to. Right? And as far as losing the dressing room, I said, that is just, I don't know where you're hearing that from. Somebody says, I heard it in social media, I saw it in one of the forums. I said, all right. I said, well, that's obviously fact.
That wasn't me, by the way, this time.
But I said, look, if you, as a board, decide that you want to move Jim Jeffries out, it's the biggest mistake you'll make at this club. To be fair, Jamie Moffat said to me, you're the football guy, we'll go with you. Jim won his next 3 games. I never told Jim that. Never told him. He said to me, how did the board meeting go? I went, oh, brilliant. Because you can't. That's the thing.
No.
But, you know, if a football guy hadn't been in that meeting, then Jim
could have been gone.
Of course. And Terry Butcher would have been the manager. It's incredible, and that's why you were talking about all the managers leaving. It's a knee-jerk reaction, and far too many people in football and boards sit and make decisions, take their guide from the social media, from the club forums. I've heard it so many times, the fans aren't happy.
Davey, I've got to be honest, part of the problem, I think, as well, and that's why it was so fresh and speak to the Brechin manager on
the chairman,
chairman on Tuesday
guy.
night or whenever it was. And that is the fact that you've sometimes got to wake up to the reality that when you're the manager of certain football clubs, you're not Rangers, you're not Celtic, you're not Hibs, you're not Hearts. So you have to kind of get your mindset as to being realistic about who you actually are and where you actually sit in football. And you've got to manage accordingly. It's not easy to not lose money in a football club, but if you can not lose money or lose the very bare minimum that you have to lose, then maybe you've got a win there. And I just think sometimes I listen to some directors, I listen to some chief execs, I listen to some chairmen, and I think, you think you're at Rangers or Celtic or Hibs or Aberdeen, or maybe not Aberdeen now after what we've discussed tonight, Hearts, and you just kind of don't get it. And I'm stunned. We're at the point now where we're just starting to come into 30% of the season being played, and we've lost 13 managers. No. And as much as I think some of the football we've seen, some of the results we've had, up and down the leagues have been a great advert for Scottish football. Sadly, I honestly do believe that this kind of churn in managers in the SPFL cancels out a lot of the good stuff because people look at it and say, what the hell's going on there?
It's managing expectation, and that's the thing. But I do think, Bill, and I'm not saying this for effect, but I know a lot of people in boards read the forums, and that's their barometer of whether the manager should stay or go, and that's a ridiculous situation. I've had it at a couple of clubs that I've been at where, you know, I was looking at the forum last night, fans are not happy. You know, you have to appease the fans, but as I pointed out to many of them,
there will always be something at a club that fans are not happy about.
They will be, but at the end of the day, they look to the board to guide them and take the club forward. But what's Dundee's expectations in the league? You know, top 6. Everyone seems to be tops. They want top 6. That works, but it doesn't work for long because look at Partick Thistle. You know,
Davey, top 6 means that there are only 6 clubs can get there. You've then got to sit down and look at all the other clubs that you're up against and say, Celtic, can we beat them? Can we beat them? Can we get higher up than them? And if you're Dundee, the answer is, I'm sorry, no.
If you look at
if you finish 8th or 9th, you'll be doing well.
Doing great. If you look at it just now, you've got Celtic, Rangers, not in any order. Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen,
Hibs,
Hearts,
Killie.
That's 6 clubs. That should be your top 6. right? So, you've obviously got Livingston up there, and the Livingston have done tremendously well because they've stuck to a style of play that has suited them very, very well. But, you would think that they would maybe drop down because ultimately they're.
Listen, what'll happen with Livy, Davy, is what happened with Hamilton, and you were there at the time.
Yep.
Remember when they were top of the league at Christmas?
Yep.
But by the end of the season,
Yep.
they were down about 8th, I think.
Yep.
And from that point of view, that was a great season.
Wonderful season.
That was a magnificent season for Hamilton.
Yep.
And you've got to be realistic. Livy are not going to stay where they are now. It would be great if they did, because it would set the cat amongst the pigeons. But I don't think anybody at Livingston, including Holt, thinks at the end of the season they're going to be where they are. But you know what? Getting the start they've got gives them the best chance ever to stay in the league and consolidate for next season.
Yeah, I sent Holty a text, when they did a really good victory. And I said to him, that's it, great. 40 points, that's your target. And that's what he said. He said, we're living the dream just now, but the expectation is we want to get 40 points to stay in the league. Ultimately, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's success. But, sort of the Livingston supporters going through a lot of problems. So, they now manage their expectations. Their expectation, their fans, is to stay in the league. They're enjoying the journey. But when you go to clubs, and I said to you before, like Dundee, when I was up at Dundee, there was expectation, we won the league in the 60s, why are we not doing it now? Football's changed.
It's 50 year on, that's why.
50 years, I remember the 60s. So, but it's managing expectations, but, I think that the writing was always on the wall for Neil McCann, but it did, going back to your original thing, it did surprise me that Jim Duffy maybe didn't.
How do you manage expectations, though? Because don't forget, I spoke to people at the end of last season when St Mirren did so well. Jack moved on, went to Sunderland, and I spoke to David McDonald from Black and White Army, the unofficial St Mirren kind of fan site, and I was saying, look, the expectation for it. He says, no, we'll be realistic about it. And yet, there we go, 7 games in, Alan Stubbs goes. 7 games in, Oren Kearney comes in, they're still not looking great, and you've got a situation now where St Mirren fans are up in arms because they think they should be further up the league than they actually are. Now, they may well be further up the league, but I don't think they're any further up the league than, I would say, 2 places if they were having a good season.
No.
And so from that point of view, you have to get real about these things.
Well, it gets back to the big thing, is that, and this is open to debate, and it's always comes out. But realistically now, I think Scottish football's improved dramatically. I think it went through a real problematic period where the finance wasn't right, the product in the park wasn't right, the various things weren't right. I think it's getting to a great position now. I would personally think that there's 16 good teams in this country that should be in the top division. That's my view.
I mean, my thoughts on it. I think it should be extended as well,
because you wouldn't get this. People say, it's there's too many meaningless games. There is not any meaningless games in the league, so maybe that's what it is. But you could create a split similar to the thing that we're doing now. But I think there's 16.
See, I don't
teams.
even like the split. I know a lot of people do, but I don't.
Well. People like some things and they don't like others.
I know what I like, and I like what I like. If results keep going the way they have been for Dundee, will that be justification that it was not McCann's fault they have been so dire?
Well,
that's a tweet, by the way. That's not mine.
Well, Jim McIntyre, the first thing he'll need to do is get control of the dressing room, because there's a lot of players in there that are not playing for the club. Said to Jerry last night, though, Davey, here's part of the problem for Jimmy had at Ross County. He's coming in where he's got a couple of months, 2-3 months, where he's got to muddle through before he can offload any or bring any in. But he did particularly well when he went. He did, because he got them organised. Yep, and I was reading some stats. I think that he was something like 10th when he was sacked at Ross County, and they went on to be relegated. Mm-hmm. He's a good manager. He knows how to motivate teams. Billy Dodds is is a live wire. He's a bit like a Jerry McCabe. We don't know that Billy's going yet, do we? Well, I don't know. You're the man on the inside. Maybe Jerry McKagan heard him phoning in the other night. Maybe he'll phone in, because that'll mean he'll be on every night this week. Just a bit. There's no many. The only guy that's on every night this week is
me,
because you're the ringmaster.
Bill, is there a record over the last few years of how many managers have been moved on or walked away? Would be interesting to see what the figures are. Well, I don't know that there's an official record, but I'm sure we could put one together, and I might get that done for tomorrow, say over the last 5 seasons, and just see what the churn's been like regarding managers and coaches and things like that. I got to emphasise, guys, if you're listening tonight, not all of the managers that are not there in situ now are not there because they were fired. Some of them moved away. Some of them decided that they didn't want to do it anymore. There was a couple of ambiguous by mutual agreements, and then there were the ones where, the parting of the ways came, but I suppose the net result's the same. Davey, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk more football on Rock Sport Radio.
Cut Steakhouse and the 1860 Bar is Bothwell's premier dining experience and bar. Whether you want to take advantage of our £5 lunchtime special or enjoy our a la carte menu created with the finest ingredients, at Cut, your complete satisfaction is our goal. Speaking of which, if it's a night enjoying the best in sport from Sky and BT, the 1860 Bar is ideal for the discerning sports fan. Come and see us soon at Cut Steakhouse and the 1860 Bar, 1 Old Mill Road, Bothwell.
You know the feeling. You're at work and all of a sudden you fancy something, but you're not sure what. You go to the vending machine and nothing. It's empty. Sound all too familiar? Go Vending supply fully serviced vending machines to buy or lease, and that means fully serviced. Vending machines, water coolers and coffee machines are all available. Whatever your needs, wherever you are in central Scotland. Call Go Vending on 01294 279 536 or visit our website govending.co and speak with the vending experts. Go Vending.
City Blinds and Shutters are Scotland's blind and shutter specialist, and your business can benefit too. From head offices to workshops, restaurants to studios, City Blinds and Shutters can make your commercial business stand out. Brighten up your office or your workspace. We can even print any logo or design to really catch the eye. Professionally designed and installed with free design and estimate. Call us on 0141 551 8785 or visit cityblindman.com. City Blinds and Shutters, not just for your home.
Autumn's here, back to school and back to work. And whether you're on the school run or on your drive to work, it's the perfect time to upgrade your car radio to digital. With lots of in-car digital radios and adapters available, it's easy to take all the digital stations you enjoy at home with you on the road. Look for the digital tick on approved products. It means the radio is future ready.
Ask about in-car digital radio at your local car dealer, car audio specialist or Halfords.
Love radio. Go digital.
Love music. Live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David McKinnon on Rock Sport Radio.
Okay, talking football for this Thursday night. Let's go back to a story we spoke about last night, and the fact that the IFA have blocked Kyle Lafferty invoking the 5-day rule so that he's not available to play against Hamilton this weekend. Your thoughts on that? By the way, Rangers confirmed that today, but insisting that Lafferty is still available for selection for NI.
Right, okay.
Whether that means national insurance or not, or Northern Ireland, I'm not quite sure.
It's a strange one for me because the Lee Griffiths one, which is in a kind of similar vein. Lee Griffiths came out.
Now wait, because Kevin, who's one of our regular listeners, got on to me for bringing Lee Griffiths into the conversation. By the way, Kevin's a Celtic supporter, and felt that we had wrongly brought him into the conversation last night. I did get back to Kevin and say, Kevin, the reason that we did it was we made a comparative where the SFA haven't made any sanctions against Celtic with a 5-day rule, even though Griffiths said he wasn't injured. It was just he wanted to get his fitness better. And the IFA have stopped Lafferty for playing for his club, which is a Scottish club. Now, it wouldn't have mattered to me what the club was in Scotland. I would have had the same conversation about it. No getting away from it. But it was for comparative purposes that we used brought Lee Griffiths back into it again.
That's precisely what I'm going to do is comparative, it's a comparison between two, because it's a similar kind of situation. Lee Griffiths obviously had a conversation with Alec McLeish, told him he didn't want to play, and the various things that happened with that, and whether he plays in the future, that's up to Alec McLeish. The Lafferty one surprises me slightly. I wonder if he has indeed an injury, because Rangers, I think, quite clearly stated very early on, as far as they're concerned, he doesn't have an injury. So there's something just not quite right about it. I don't think Kyle Lafferty's mind was maybe right, he was in the right frame of mind to go and play for Ireland for some reason. Right? And I think that in my understanding, that's the kind of thing that happens sometimes. Sometimes you just can't go and do it, and I think that maybe that may have been the reason rather than an Achilles injury. So, at the end of the day, Ireland, like every other country, have the sanctions available to them, and they've chosen to invoke it. I don't know what it does for the relationship between Kyle Lafferty and the Irish FA going forward, but I think that it could have been sorted out, and I think that maybe your Indian Spirit guide will tell you a wee bit more about it. But it was strange for me, Rangers saying that they didn't say he didn't have an injury as far as they're concerned.
I think, for me, talking about it last night and sticking with the Lafferty thing for a wee minute, I think that for me, I think it was badly timed the way it was done. Midnight on Sunday night. Phoning up and saying, I can't come, I'm not coming because I've got an Achilles problem. It's a kind of last minute thing.
There's more to that, Bill.
Well, I don't know if there is. I certainly haven't heard anything, Davy.
Yep.
But it's well documented Kyle Lafferty's had his problems and his demons to fight off the park. I thought that they were pretty much under control, and I believe they are. But he's probably never been happier than he is at Rangers right now, being part of the Steven Gerrard kind of setup and revolution that's going over at Ibrox. So I don't know what there could be. He's just become a new dad. I don't know if that plays a part in it. I don't know if there's been some issue between Michael O'Neill and him previously or leading up to it, because he wasn't due to start as far as I'm aware, and Michael O'Neill supposedly was pretty angry that when they were not in the position they were at, that he couldn't call on Lafferty to come off the bench. So I really don't know what the issue is.
It's a strange one.
What I don't understand, sorry Davey,
okay,
what I don't understand is I don't understand invoking this rule, because I don't think it benefits anybody.
It doesn't, and that's which I think is a bit, dare I say, petty. I think it's maybe it's a bit petty by Ireland, but I think there's more to that, because the big thing is that, as you say, it was a midnight call before you're supposed to. That is not an Achilles or an injury. If you've got an injury, you inform them very, very early on. And the other thing is, if you've got an injury and you're committed to the cause and you want to go, then you go on the flight and you go over and you say, look, I think I'm struggling with an injury here. Could you assess it for me? That's normally what protocol. And if that had been done, then it would have been assessed. So, and I think Kyle Lafferty's, gone through all the problems that he's done, and which is hugely admirable. I've got a lot of respect for him to come out and say what he did, and obviously, he's fighting a lot of things. But when these kind of things happen, you automatically think, there's maybe a problem mentally with it.
But it would be better for me, and
if he came out and said that.
Yeah, it would be better for me if we knew what the whole story was and the player came out and said the story. I mean, if he's got a problem, I think at this point the world of football is more forgiving about personal problems than it's ever been, and I think people would understand. I mean, I feel the same way about Lee Griffiths. I've told you the stories that I've heard about Lee Griffiths and why Lee Griffiths hadn't been playing for a while with Celtic, and friction between him and Brendan Rodgers allegedly. And if people come out and say this, okay, it's not easy because it's somebody's private life and they have to be they have to be willing to let them do that. But I think it stands everybody in better stead going on than all this backing and forward, and then this business of the action. The IFA for me is it's pointless. It's pointless because although Kyle Lafferty says today he's still available to be selected for Northern Ireland, is he really? Do you think he will be? I'm not sure that he will be.
No, I think you're right, and I think it's, we've got Christian Nadi on later on, and you've got a lot of admiration for people now. In my day, if you had a problem, there was no way you would bring that out in any manner of means within the dressing room, to the manager, to anyone. You would keep it really, tight into yourself, and you would just try to get through it. We're in a different age now, and there's a lot of pressures on everyone, and people like Christian coming out and telling people what he's going through. People have a great empathy for that. 1 in 4 people during life will have a mental health problem, and ultimately that's it. More will have it, but a lot of people are affected by mental health because they know someone. So, I think the stigma of mental health and coming out and admitting things has now got a bigger, a platform and a soft place to land that it never ever had. So, I just think that this kind of thing, the midnight call, it doesn't sit right with me. And, I think ultimately it will come out, but I just think that it's a bit petty. I would say the word petty and it surprises me. Because Michael O'Neill's a guy that I really like and respect, a decent guy who's had his own problems to deal with, So anyway, I just think that it's not the right thing and it's not the right decision, and as you say, it will do no benefit for anyone.
Do you think that he is available, or do you think he will want to play for Northern Ireland again, or is he just making the right noises to, if you like, ensure that this doesn't get blown out of proportion at this point?
Well, I think that he's a guy who loves playing for his country. He does well there. I think he's a talisman for Northern Ireland. It surprised me there. I don't keep tabs on every player that plays for Northern Ireland, but it surprises me that you were saying there that Kyle Lafferty may have not been in the starting lineup because
Hang on a minute, Ewan. You've left us in the break mode for the Twitter. Somebody's on moaning. Thank you. Is that better for you? Yeah, good.
Well, it's a surprise that somebody wants to see us.
We've got a technical problem with the phones, I believe, and obviously we've been trying to resolve that. So we were stuck with the caption over for the break. But that's done now. That's done now, and they've just heard did they hear your dulcet tones? That's a big thing. Oh no, they heard both of us. They'd hear both of us. They just wouldn't see us.
Because it makes my night when I hear your... Yeah, actually, do you know something? You know that app you've got that puts you to sleep? I think you'd be great. I think, do you know, I've got a great business.
I'll put you to sleep permanently if you're not careful. I've got a great
business proposition. You could do people's ringtones. Yeah. Hello, this is Bill Young.
So what's your thoughts on whether he'll actually play for Northern Ireland?
I think he will. I do think he will, because he's too good a player for them to lose out, and I think they'll sort it out. But I do believe that it could have been dealt with better by the Northern Ireland Association, because, as you say, it does nothing for. It surprised me. It surprised me that Steve.
Sorry, I've got it here. Not moaning. I'm making sure that the show is shown to everyone to see. Trying to help get called out. Me scabby face at the end of it. No, I was just saying you helped me tell him. But I had to tell him that it was you that told me.
You don't know.
No, I don't know it. Well, I do know, because I can see the monitor over there. But I never looked over there because I'm too busy looking at you. If I was looking away from you, that'd be extremely rude.
Well, you do sometimes, but
I do. That's disbelief sometimes.
Hey, steady. You better be very careful. But
I can't.
All right, what's happening now?
If that's the case, let me just... Sorry, folks, I know I have to do this too often. If that's the case, there's a button badly selected in there, or there's something unplugged, or there's a volume switch that's down. That's what the problem is. It's one of those. So something's changed in the desk since you've gone in.
See, the thing is, do you know what I admire about you, Bill? You're such a consummate professional, right?
That is far from being professional.
No,
having to tell people what's going on when you're on air.
But you juggle so many things, and then visually you know what a problem is in the ether, and you can go and sort it out. But not even been there.
In my day, that was called a bloody know-it-all, Davy.
I just, but I admire it because, I'm almost touched by your presence because
now you're quoting Blondie songs, which I don't appreciate any way, shape or form. Touched by your presence, dear. Liam Telfer, here we are. We'll go back to Liam. Liam, thank you for getting in touch. You can get in touch if you want to tweet us at Rocksport DAB. Liam says a top division would be better as a 16-team league. All teams play each other twice. So games don't get boring, and it will also get rid of the midweek games and improve attendance, as I know people won't be able to get to what's that? Hang on, it's just thingy. Wait a minute. I know people won't be able to get to Aberdeen from Killie for a 7:45 kickoff. Good point. That's
a great point, William. And I think that obviously with a lot of the European games coming in now, that's games that I think that we can cope with, and I think there would be maybe a complimentary cup or something like that would fill in the void.
Okay, listen, let's move on and speak to our first guest, and I apologise straight away, Paul, for keeping you hanging on and messing you about with this.
That's all right.
A slight problem. Paul Regan, father of Finn Regan, who's flying every week, round trip, 700 miles, because young Finn has signed for St Johnstone, but you're actually in Lerwick.
That's right. We stay just outside Lerwick in a small village called Gulberwick.
Now, two questions which fascinate me here. The first one is, how did Finn get spotted? Where was he playing, and how did he get spotted? That's the first one.
Yeah, we were down on holiday in the Scottish mainland through an organisation called Soccer Experience, which is run by Martin Tierney, an ex-professional footballer who's based in Tenerife. And what he does every year is put together a collection of naturalised Tenerifeans that from all over Europe, all over the world really, brings them to Scotland and uses contacts in the Scottish game to play against academy teams. Some Shetland boys been down the year before, and we went down this year with Finn and his brother and some other Shetland boys, and he was spotted playing there. Finn scored a hat-trick in his first 15 minutes playing against Falkirk's academy team, and Martin Tierney got in touch with Alistair Stevenson, his old friend who's in charge of youth development at St Johnstone. Finn then played against St Johnstone and was invited to go and play for a tournament at St Andrews for St Johnstone against some other SPL clubs, and he did well. He scored a couple of goals against Dun United, and he scored the winner against Partick in the game against them. So we invited him back. He played in another couple of games, and then he got signed.
He's only 13, and the way things are going for St Johnstone, he could be in the first team in the next couple of weeks.
I'm sure things will pick up soon for them.
And St Johnstone, I'm assuming that St Johnstone, Finn's not a St Johnstone fan.
He doesn't really, sadly, like a lot of young lads, he doesn't, because we're up here and can't really travel to games very often. He doesn't really have a Scottish team that he follows.
Don't tell me he supports Bergen or somebody like that.
No. Chelsea would be his team of choice, I suppose, and like everybody, enjoys the Champions League, enjoyed watching Messi and Ronaldo and these kind of guys, but no, he doesn't really follow any particular Scottish team, although that may change now. He's got a connection with St Johnstone.
Paul, just before I bring Davy McKinnon and my colleague in the studio, that's quite a trek for anybody, never mind a 13-year-old boy. I assume, do you accompany him?
Yes, we do at the moment.
And are you bearing the cost of this, or do the club offset
it? We're bearing the cost as a family at the moment, and we're lucky enough that we're both teachers, myself and my wife, so we had the holidays together in the summer, so that was okay. He's been down a few times since. He was just down weekends ago playing against St Mirren and scored a couple against them in a 2-0 win, but I went down with him. So I stayed with my sister who lives in Glasgow for the games against St Mirren and Queen's Park, and we just stayed in hotels and things when we were based in Perth for the home games. But yeah, we have to accompany him down at the moment. He's too young to go on his own.
Paul, David McKinnon, as Bill said, it's real. This is really an interesting story because, if you're playing obviously up in Shetland, I don't know what your views are on it, but sometimes you don't know how good or how bad, your son is until he goes into maybe
he gets a chance.
The bigger pond.
Absolutely, David. That's right. I'm a coach myself, and I've coached Finn for a lot of years, and we had a Shetland representative team. We were down in Glasgow, played in the Glasgow Cup. We did well. Went to Dingwall earlier in the year, and we were unbeaten. We beat all the teams there and drew one game. So we knew it was a reasonable. And he scored lots of goals in those games, but it was only when we played for the Nomads and Martin Tierney's soccer experience that against the academy teams, and he was still scoring goals and still standing out, that I realised that he could have a chance if someone took a gamble with him. And Alistair Stevenson at St Johnstone and his colleague Paul Donnelly were good enough to do that. So he's played a few games now, so the fear factor's gone a little bit, and he's able to express himself. He's getting to know the boys in the team and the coaches, and he's doing quite well. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and is Finn settling into it? Do you think does he now realising how good a talent he is?
Well, he realises he's got a chance because he's playing at a good level and he's scored goals. As I say, that the last year not as good as the last game, I suppose, as a striker. His last one was against St Mirren away, and they won 2-0 and they got both the goals in that game. It was a very tough game. So he did well, and it's a whole learning experience for him. He's certainly raw, perhaps, compared with some of the boys that had a lot of coaching, but he's got great ability and good belief. He's a good athlete. He does a lot of athletics training as well, so he's got pace, and he's got a chance. Yeah, I think he's got a chance if he just keeps.
And it's obviously it is a big cost, I'm actually I'm just looking at the thing and I'm saying to myself, this is a wonderful story. A wonderful story that for Shetland, and I was actually trying to think about getting a sponsor for this. You've got Anne Cleves, who writes the Shetland books. She's just got a new one out that I bought today. Jimmy Perry is the Shetland series, so maybe she's got a few quid. She can do that, but also Logan.
If she had a few quid, she should be advertising with us rather than you giving her free plugs, McKinnon.
And Loganair, we're doing some business with Loganair, so maybe. It's a good story for Loganair as well.
Well, Loganair, it would be. We have a lot of Shetlanders punch above their weight in athletics, swimming, netball, lots of sports. And Loganair, a lot of them use Loganair, so it could be an interesting one for Loganair. But that's if they express some interest, that would be, of course, most welcome. But at the moment, it's just a case of using the resources and try to put money aside for when they complete school and whether they go on further education or whatever. So it's just that his rainy days come a bit earlier, and we're having to dip into that, but we're more than happy to do that.
Paul, let me ask you this. How's Finn feeling about this? As I say, it could be a wee bit overwhelming. What kind of young man is he? Because it could be a wee bit overwhelming for someone older than him, being signed at 13 by a professional club, but having to travel 700 miles to play for them round trip.
I think it was a great help, as I say, playing for Martin Tierney and the soccer experience, the Nomads team, was a great help because he was playing in a more light-hearted way, and he was playing against the Carry team. He's doing really, really well. Signing for St Johnstone was a big boost for him, but he'd already played 2 or 3 games by that time, and he knew what the level was like, so the fear factor wasn't there, and he didn't freeze, and he just has to keep on learning from the coaches and adapting his game. But he's quite level-headed about it. He's excited about it. He wants to keep on learning and improving. So he seems to be taking it in a stride at the moment, and long may it continue.
I guess he must have become a wee bit of a local celebrity there in Shetland as well, because this is a big story.
And there was quite a bit of there was a good story in the local paper, the Shetland Times. A very good lifelong friend of mine, Colin Grant, is high up in the local paper, and he organised for a good story to be done, which was great and raised the profile, not just for Finn but for a lot of, I suppose, Shetland sports people, showing that it is possible that you can get opportunities. So that was good. We were on John Beattie's show for Radio Scotland. We were interviewed for that as well. So it's caused a wee bit of a stir. And then he was on the BBC Sports website, and I got calls from people that I've formerly been friends with from years and years ago that were getting in touch from London, and a good friend out in Australia got in touch, and other people. So there's been a fair amount of interest.
And how long is Finn signed up with St Johnstone for, and how do you see this, and how have the club kind of sold it to you in terms of how they see it developing? Because you would think that as Finn gets older, if he's going to make an absolute impact at some level, even at a fairly young age, then it means a move from Shetland.
Yeah, I think that we'd have to see. I hope he would do enough, and I think that I think that Alistair Stevenson, who's the head of youth development and previously was with Hibs and Rangers and brought through a lot of big name players like Charlie Miller and players like that, he's seen a lot of football, so he's been brilliant to us, very encouraging. He spoke very warmly to the chairman about Finn when he was signing him. So they clearly think there's potential there. If he can stay involved and improving for the next couple of years, that'd be great. And then inevitably the decision would have to come when he was around sort of 15, 16 to move to the mainland, I think, and make the most of any opportunities that came his way.
Paul, one of our pundits said to me, I didn't realise Shetland was so far away when it went outside that square, the weather square. They thought, it's quite close, so...
It's short flights to Aberdeen, but if you're going by boat, it's 13 hours on the boat, so it's a long haul. But we're using, obviously, flights to come down and train on the Friday nights and play the games on the Sunday, and then try and fly back Sunday evening. We're lucky enough to be going down next weekend as the October holidays. We've still got a week left, so we fly down on Sunday. Myself, my wife, Finn and his big brother Shay. We're going to be based in Perth, so we'll get the training there, and his big brother, they're very kindly giving him a chance to train as well, so it's very good of them. We're looking forward to it.
Or is this one of these things when it's Finn's birthday, his brother gets a present as well, and vice versa?
Well, I suppose a little bit like that. I mean, as I say, we had 9 boys down from Shetland playing in the summer, and Shay showed up quite well in that as well, as all the Shetland boys did very well and played themselves. So yeah, my Alistair said if he's come down anyway, come and train. So that's good. It's good to give you a chance and get some top level coaching.
Well, listen, it's a great story. It really is, and we wish Finn all the best, and we'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully speak to you, and maybe speak to Finn at some point as well.
Yeah.
Paul, and congratulations to him. It's a great achievement for the young man, and I hope he does make it as a pro. But as I say, we'll keep an eye on him, and if there's any opportunities we can get to help out with these flights, we certainly will.
Oh, that'd be brilliant, guys. Thanks for all your help. And
no worries.
Thank you very much for taking an interest.
Paul Regan talking to us from Shetland tonight about his son Finn, 13, playing for St Johnstone, and as I said, for an adult, Davy, a 700-mile round trip, getting on aeroplanes and things like that, it's a daunting task for anybody, but for a 13-year-old it really is quite an adventure.
Well, it's exciting, isn't it? But I think the other thing is that I was going to mention this, but there's a lot of players that I know, young talent, around 13, 14, that they've been basically scouted by English clubs, in particular Premiership clubs, and what they have done is they've taken the whole family down and bought them a house down in the area. Now, St Johnstone are not in the same league as the Man Uniteds and the Liverpools that do these kind of things, but inevitably, if he does come through and he has got a future, then there will be a decision have to be made. But enjoy it while he can, and by all accounts, obviously, Paul talking to us about Finn, he seems to be a goal scorer. They're in big demand just now, so all credit to him, and it is a great story, and it's heartwarming, and the more publicity he gets for this, the more likely a sponsor will come out.
A couple of bits and pieces coming in still. Is it not great that a 13-year-old boy and his family travel 700 miles and Aberdeen is complaining about having to go to Glasgow for a final?
Super, absolutely brilliant. We've got some great listeners.
That one never missed and hit the wall, did it? Here's one. I'm stunned that Finn is playing with a professional team and the club not funding him and the family. This is something governing bodies in Scotland should be helping with. That's a very, very good point. There should be some kind of, I don't think you'd call it a scholarship as such, but something similar, where there would be some kind of bursary available.
Well, I know that at clubs, youth players get sponsorship, but they get expenses. So I know that the clubs I've been at, the guys who get around and say, there you go, there's your expenses for this week, there's your expenses, and it's generally in a wee tiny brown envelope. It'd need to be a big envelope
it would be, wouldn't it?
For that, but because I mean, obviously booking in advance helps. I looked at a flight, and if you wanted to go up to Shetland tomorrow, you were looking at about 1,100 quid return, so it's a lot of money, and all credit to Paul for funding that, because it is an investment for his son. He believes in his son, and he sees he's got something there, a future. But you're right, I think the clubs or some other kind of bursary should suffice for that, because it is a unique thing, and it's a unique thing for Shetland as well, and it puts them in the map. Outside that square, believe it or not, somebody did say to that. Said to me, see, since Shetland moved, I didn't realise it was so. I thought it was really close to Aberdeen, and I said that was the weather. It was put in the square. All right, so. Right, okay, I get it now. All right, okay.
I actually went to Lerwick by the ferry.
I've never been.
In 2000. Remember that winter we had in 2010? In January,
yep, I do.
I went from Aberdeen with on the ferry to Lerwick, 17 and a half hours, and I had a cabin. I have to say, it was up and down like a fiddler's elbow. It really was. But the best bit was, I then went from.
That's quite a great link there. Fiddler's elbow, Shetland, Fiddler's. Bill, you're just magnificent. I'm liking you tonight. All right, okay, get back on the script.
So then I left Lerwick and got the ferry to Orkney, and had to come back from Orkney from Scrabster to Stromness. And the captain came on and said, we've got a situation with a storm coming in, but we're going to try and outrun it. He didn't. And this thing was standing up like a pencil and slapping down. And there was a fish supper at the time. And the plate was going about 4 foot in the air and then dropping back down again. And the boy that I was with, because we were working, the boy that I was with was as green as you can imagine. And he ended up saying, I'm going to have to go. I said, go in the cinema. They've got reclining seats there and sleep there. Me being an old
Did it
sea
put you
salt.
off your fish supper?
That did it, hell. You ever seen anything put me off food?
Listen, do you know, I thought the captain was going to come on and say, does anybody know how to steer this?
I could have helped because I do have my licence, as you well know.
You're a nautical man, I know that.
I am a nautical man, in more ways than one. Listen, something that we've been talking about that's been very serious, and we've highlighted it time after time after time over the last few months, is mental health and mental welfare in Scottish football. It's sad that we have to talk about it as often as we do, but it's great that we are now talking about it openly, and so many high profile people have been talking about it. One of the most disturbing stories I've known in the last couple of months certainly was one I read yesterday about Christian Nadie. Christian suffering from depression, had suicidal thoughts, looked at one point of committing suicide, now playing at Troon Juniors. Let's speak to Christian and just find out a little bit about what was happening with him and how things are now. Christian, thank you first of all for coming on and being brave enough to talk about this openly. Let me ask you, how long have you suffered with depression, and when did you first know that you had it?
Hi. First of all, thank you for giving me the chance to speak. It started, I think, in 2014. It was in the month of December when I felt very, very bad, very, very low. I didn't know what was happening to me. I couldn't put a name of what was happening to me until it was really, really bad thought, and I realized when I was.
Can I ask you, if you think back to that time, is there anything specifically that you can think of that triggered the way that you felt?
There's always something. For me, was the fact that now I've been away from my family for a long time now. So I left my family when I was 15. I moved into another country when I was 21 or 22, when I couldn't even speak the language. And the fact that I spent so many birthdays or so many Christmas without my family, I think affected more than I thought it was. And you feel that you don't even belong from somewhere, because I left when I was very young. It can really, really be difficult. And I could come back home and don't feel I was at home. And don't find my place nowhere. So anywhere I was on my own.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. That really does make a lot of sense, and I can imagine how difficult that would be. When you felt the way that you did, you said just a moment ago you didn't quite understand what was happening to you. not being able to understand what was happening to you, did that make it more difficult to speak to anyone about it?
Yeah, of course, because you feel like no one can understand what you're feeling. And you feel something, you feel so low. If you talk to someone, they wouldn't understand what you are going through. And you don't want also to annoy people, so you just keep it to yourself. But doing that is digging your own grave. Not talking is putting yourself in a darker position than you already are. And that's what I've done. I just kept it to myself till a point where I couldn't tell it anymore.
Christian, it's David McKinnon. I know you from Hamilton. I was a director there with you, and I worked with you. I know that you gain a lot of respect in the dressing room. People look up to you for your dedication to the game. But as you say, that is not enough, because you can work with your colleagues, but when you're going home, you think about things, and I know that you worked very hard on your body shape at Hamilton, but it's difficult to work in the mind, isn't it? Do you now feel that you're able to? I know you've got a great faith, in your faith. Is that helping you now? Do you feel that you've come to the bottom and you're going back up again, or do you still have problems going forward?
I was really in a dark place, and when I was in Hamilton, you come in training, yep. You come to see the boys, and you always try to smile. You try yep. to help the younger players, and you try to show a positive face. But as soon as you go home, yep. You're back to on your own, and that's when it's difficult. You go back to your place, wherever you stay, and you're on your own. There's no one around you, and that's when it's difficult. I've been lucky, and I started to read the Bible, to be around people who could teach me as well the Bible, so talk to me about God, and that's when I put my faith on test. So I started to read and really into it. I tried to put myself into it, give everything I got, and try to keep my mind busy instead of keeping my mind wandering. Because when you start to ask yourself questions, and why I'm doing here, why I'm on my way, that's when you're going even lower than you already are. Mm. But if you keep focused on whatever you're doing, so example, I was in training, I was focusing on training, I was focusing on going to the gym, I was focusing to make my body good again. But when you're doing nothing and you're back to your room and you're on your own and you've got no one to talk to, it's really difficult. So when I was going home, I tried to read. I remember I was talking to a pastor, and at some point he changed number. And it was in France, and I called my friend, say, try to get his number again. Follow him wherever I go, try to get his number for me to call him. And I spent days, like hours on the phone with him, just to keep my mind busy.
Mm. Christian, let me ask you, and if it's too difficult or too painful an experience to relive, I fully understand if you don't want to talk about it. But let's talk, if you are happy to talk about it, about the Dalgety Bay incident and where you found yourself possibly staring at ending your own life because you were as low as you could get. If you're happy to talk about that, tell us a little bit about that, what took you to it, and what was going through your mind at the time.
I don't know. I don't know. I was on my own actually that day, and it was very late, and I don't know what happened to me. I just felt I needed to go for a walk, and I went for a walk, and I was living by the beach, and I had my phone in my hand, and I started to say, I can't deal with it anymore, and I'm trying to be always like strong, and I started to cry, and I didn't know why I was crying, and I didn't know who I could talk to at that time. I didn't know who I could I just felt like it was too much for people, even if I was actually nothing. And I started to text my mom, my dad. I'm shaking right now. My mom, my dad, my brothers, sisters. And I said, And I told them that I couldn't be here anymore and I needed to go. I'm really sorry. I didn't want to hurt them or anything. It was just too hard. What was so hard, I didn't know, but that's the way I felt. And I left my phone on the beach and I started to walk in the water.
Did you feel that? Did you feel conscious at that time, or did you feel as if it was somebody else that was making these decisions? Were you aware of it being a decision you were making, or was it just something that was happening naturally that you couldn't fight?
Well, I knew what I was doing.
You did?
I knew what I was doing. I just felt like I couldn't. It was just too much for me. But I didn't know what was too much, to make sense. It's the fact to be alone, always alone. I think always alone, always not, like I said, not belonging from somewhere. And that was really, really painful. And I just said, no, I can't deal with this anymore. And I started to walk into the sea, and yeah.
Well, thankfully, you're still here. Thankfully, you can talk about it now. I don't know if you're aware of it, but of course, with Scottish football, I think even right down the leagues and possibly into the juniors, I'll find out about this. But you know that the clubs have got a chaplain system where you can speak to the chaplains, and the club chaplain can give you spiritual guidance and can talk to you and things like that. Have you been aware of that, and have you used that service?
When I was in Dumbarton, before every game, me and the pastor would pray. Before every game, I will write my Bible, I will read the Bible, and then we will go in the corners. Usually when it's home, the coach will leave me his office, and me and the pastor will go and pray for a few minutes, and then I will go on the pitch straight away. If not, I will be on my... I've got the pastor in front, which I try to call every night until now, to talk with, but I'm much better now, but I still like to talk with the pastor.
That's great news. I'm really pleased to hear that.
Do you know, Christian? You have everyone's respect here, and every aspect of Scottish life and football, and I'm glad that you have come out and spoken about this, because you will get support when you need it. I'm an ex-footballer of 20 years. I've gone through similar things of feeling low, and I know how difficult it is. And I've had my family around me, but you obviously had this loneliness with no one there. Have you now got to a place where you have support, and you're quite comfortable with the support, and you know now that you will move on with life?
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant.
Now, like I say, I'm speaking with my pastor, which helped, and I've got a son now, which I would do anything for him, and this gives me, I want to see ahead. I want to be with him, so I can't afford to not be there. I'll be an example, so I need to be healthy. I need to be good, and I need to show him the great value of life.
Christian, you're obviously playing with Troon now. What other things are you doing? Are you going to remain in the country, or will you go back to France? Because when I left football as a professional after a number of years, I had an injury and had to go part-time when I was 29, and it became very, very difficult, that transition, because you have to have something else in your life from football. Have you now got something that you're going to get a career out of after football?
Well, I'm playing for Troon just now, which they've been great to me during this hard time. But I'm feeling good again, and hopefully I could try to come back into a professional world. I'll be happy to. So I'm trying to give everything I can to go back to the professional. I had some offers at some point, but I wasn't ready to go back. I am now, and so I'm waiting for the best offer to go back into professional. If not, I will. I've got some things, and me and my younger brother we try to work with African government, and start to work. So we're happy about that.
Christian, you know, there will be people listening to this that will want to help in that respect. And indeed, you know, myself, you know, you know, when you hear the story and what you've gone through, and knowing you as a person and how, you know, honest and open you are and how professional you are, you have a great career in front of you in whatever you decide to do. So, you know, I'm really pleased that you've shared your experience with us, and you know, I think the future looks great for you, and you know, there will be people out giving you assistance, and I certainly will try very, very hard to try and open doors for you as well. So you've got a lot of people thinking in your corner for you.
Thank you. I never thought that my story will help or will, like, I will have so many good response from it, and that gives me the strength, and I want to talk more about it. And if I can, even if I help one person, I'd be very, very happy to help.
Well, I think you have helped one person, and that's yourself. And I think that's a great place to start. And the focus of having your son now, I think, is a very, very strong building block for you. But we've had a lot of response here while we're talking to you on things like Twitter. For example, here's one. I'm sure anyone listening to Mr. Nadi can still hear the pain and anguish in his voice. Such a brave, brave lad. Bill, you don't really know why you have these thoughts. It's a feeling of utter confusion and having everything negative in your life coming together as one, losing all faith in others and yourself. Can you pass on my highest regards to Christian Nadi? I have nothing but respect for someone who is dealing with an illness that is, to most people, do not understand or think is happening. Strong and never keep it to yourself. Stay strong and never keep it to yourself. So already we've got a reaction here, Christian. And as I say, anything we can do where we can help you and advance the whole thing of mental well-being in football, we're right up for, and we will try and do as much as we possibly can. But first of all, can I thank you, and I really do mean it, for being brave enough to come on and talk about what must have been one part of it, particularly a very, very difficult and painful moment to have to relive tonight.
Okay, thank you. Like I say, if I can help, I will. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Christian Nadia talking to us tonight. I think when you hear it, and you hear it like that, Davey, it puts it into perspective. And, you know, a lot of people will not understand how footballers find themselves in this position because they think it's a glamorous life. And you know what really resonated with me, because I've been there, I didn't suffer with depression over it. But, you know, I've lived away. I've been married for 43 years this year, and I've lived away for 15 of those years, travelling back and forward from home. And, you know, what a brave lad. And I fully understand where Christian Nadi's coming from in terms of, you know, being alone, feeling alone, missing birthdays, missing Christmases, not being able to talk to your family, not being able to see your family. But to get to the point where you start wading into Dalgety Bay because you don't want to be alive anymore, I can't even start to think what that must be like.
Well, do you know, people, I work with him at Hamilton, and, you know, he's a colossus of a man. So people think they see the man and they think what a strong character. But you know, the things that happen in the mind sometimes is very, very difficult. You know, as an ex-footballer, you know, I've been low. And I've known fellow players that have been very, very low, and it's a horrible place to get to, because you don't know why you've got there. You don't know where your journey's become to get you that low, and it becomes very, very difficult. And sometimes you don't see a way out. And you know, and I've known colleagues, footballers that I've played with who've committed suicide.
Yes.
Spoke to one who will remain nameless in December, and spoke to him very openly about things, and we were going to meet up in the January, and I was at an event one night, and my mate texted me and told me that sadly he'd been can't say anymore, sorry.
Alright, David, listen, you take couple of minutes or so, and we'll come back. Let's talk football in the more traditional way that we do on the programme. Mark Donaldson, as you know, from ESPN, is a regular guest on the programme. He is a big Jambo. And Mr. Donaldson, how are you? And how's the little? And she looks as if she's coming on leaps and bounds, my friend.
She is. I'm good, Bill. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm very good, mate. Been very impressed by your team so far this season. Got to say, however, I do have a wee bit of a concern now that Suter and Ikpeazu have come up with the injuries that they have. 5 months. God, that's a hell of a time, Mark.
Yeah, I would go further than a week, and as a Jambo, I would say a big concern. It's not ideal, but what Hearts have shown, I mean, there's two ways to look at that. The negative way, and it's all doom and gloom, but a little bit of broader perspective. You see Hearts at the top of the table. It's going to be very, very hard now to remain there in the short term, never mind the duration of the league season. But I think what we saw, Bill, was after the Livingston game, where there were a few Hearts fans that were frustrated. In fact, a lot of Hearts fans frustrated that they didn't win that game, understandably so, because the bar had been set so high. But in the subsequent games after that, against Motherwell especially, and then St Johnstone, they found another way to win. Now, Craig Levine's teams over the years have been criticised for being Route 1, just one way to play. He's developed a good squad. He's put together a good squad, and he's going to need it now because Michael Smith suspended this weekend against Aberdeen for his red card at Ibrox, and Ikpeazu and John Suter injured. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does for the visit of Aberdeen.
Mark, let me ask you this, because one of the things that's impressed us, that Craig Levein has identified, if you will, a hole in the market. He's looked at what teams are about and what teams do, and he said, look, there's a place in this market for us, but we have to get stronger, we have to get more physical, and we have to bully teams, and they have done it to perfection. But playing good football at the same time. I'm just thinking with Suter out and with Ikpeazu out, how key are they to that physical element of the Hearts game? And is that the main concern, that maybe they might have to adapt from what's been very successful for them to something that might just not be as potent as we've seen them be?
Well, that was my point, Bill. Yeah, they adapted against Motherwell. They adapted against St Johnstone because Uche was unavailable for a few games, and they did have a plan B and at times plan C as well. Some of the stuff they played against St Johnstone, especially in the first half, was outstanding. The issue in that game was not killing the game off. They allowed St Johnstone back into it. They still got all 3 points, but that game should have been out of sight, the way that they played. So I get the whole, there's this tag that won't, Hearts can't shake it off under Levein, the big physical side. I'm glad you mentioned they played some good football as well. Because
well, to be honest with you, Mark, I think they play a physical game, but it's a physical game that's played with good movement, with nice passing. I don't mean it's a rough and ready game. I just mean that they're a team that will not be bullied under any circumstances. And part of that, for me, certainly, is Ikpeazu is part of that in a big way. I like the lad. I think he's big, he's strong, he's troublesome, he takes people's focus, which I think a lot of people don't quite understand the amount of work he does off the ball in keeping people occupied so that Naismith can find the spaces that he does.
Yes. I was looking forward to seeing Uche against Considine and Mikey Devlin. Because Aberdeen have got 1 or 2 issues at the weekend. They've got a boy, Scott McKenna, suspended. But it's not going to be different. The biggest blow for me, with especially Ikpeazu, if we talk about him for a second being out, is that maybe is plan B or plan A out the window, and they might need to come up with something else to go along with what they do. Suter's going to be a big miss for me. I think he'll be the bigger miss of the two. We're already without Christophe Berra, who's not going to be back for another few months. And now Suter out as well. He was like the glue. He led by example. He reminded me of Andy Webster, who was, when he was that age, had Presley alongside him. And the games that Presley was unable to play, Webster really stepped up. And that's what John Suter has done as well. So that, for me, is the biggest blow with Suter out. Physicality, I get what you're saying. Totally get that. But that's something that Craig Levein has identified and addressed. Hearts have scored more goals from set pieces this season than I've seen them score for many a year, and they were a big threat. I still think they are, because we move on. I mean, you've got to try and replace. So it's funny, I do a Hearts podcast we've just started called Around the Funnel, and I did it last night before I heard this news, and I picked a team, a 4-4-1-1, which had Ikpeazu leading the line, but it didn't have Djoum in it. Arnaud Djoum's a fantastic player, the Cameroon international, but he's not a left-sided player. Dimitri Mitchell's a fantastic player, but he's not a left-back. So I had Garucho at left-back with Mitchell in front, and I couldn't fit Djoum in. Now we can, which is a big thing, and they can play him central. So what they're going to do at right-back remains to be seen. Aaron Hughes is fit again. He was away with Northern Ireland, so that's a possibility. But it's going to be tough with Hughes and Jimmy Dunn. DiCamone will probably come in for Michael Smith. There's a few things that Craig is going to try and work around this weekend, and of course the derby's coming up soon as well. A trip to Dundee with a new boss and a cup semi-final against Celtic. This will test them.
Mark, it's Dave McKinnon here.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Listen, it is sometimes in adversity, you get people coming in and stating their place. And as you said, particularly at the back, I think that's where Hearts have always been strong. I think Suter combination with Berra was a great combination. Jimmy Dunn's come in, and I've not seen a lot of him, but Aaron Hughes, I think he's a steady Eddie. He's obviously, maybe the legs are not quite what they used to be, but would you see him as the leader? Because you need leaders in defence, and he would, for me, would be the ideal leader to come in and partner Jimmy Dunn in the centre of that defence.
Yeah, he would be if they play. If you go with your country, and I know he was an unused sub for both the games against Austria and Bosnia-Herzegovina, but he was injured, so he's fit again. Game time would be an issue. You know yourself, Dave, having played the game, you can say to the boss you're fit, because you feel physically fit, but match fitness is totally different, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is, and but I think sometimes the older I got, the less fit I became, obviously. But my head started.
Craig Patterson, you had to cart Craig Patterson on your shoulders.
Well, that was it. But you're right. But sometimes as you get older, you don't make the runs. The runs that don't benefit you. You don't make those runs, and what you do is you actually play the game through your mind, and you move into position. Because one of the things I think that I realised when I got older, that I could sense danger, where danger was going to come from, because from experience. When you're young, you don't sense that. So I think that Aaron Hughes is a perfect fit to go in there. But, as I said there, sometimes when you've got this adversity and it hits the club, it actually galvanises all the players that are left to actually get together and gel. And I think, Craig Levine's actually played, down very, very well. Our recruitment is good, and we've got to get replacements. He's not saying this is going to be a major problem for us.
No, and one thing I would say about this, you talk about the issues that Hearts may have now without Suter, especially. I want to take you back to the 11th of August. Not many people, including myself, gave Hearts much of a shout against Celtic, 0-0 at half-time, and the big blow for Hearts was Christophe Berra coming off. Adversity everywhere you look. Aaron Hughes came on, partner John Suter, clean sheet. Hearts won it by a 0-0. So I think sometimes, maybe not just in football but in sport as well, when there's less expected of you or your team, strange things can happen. So there's no pressure on Hearts now. If they lose games, everyone's involved. Understandably, they've lost their captain, their vice captain, and their best striker. If they pick up points, then they can go under the radar here. So look, it's not ideal, but it wouldn't surprise me if they got one or two decent results with what they have, because they've got a good squad. They really do have a strong squad, and they're going to need it now. Do
you know something? While we've got you on, I'd like to ask you this question as a Hearts aficionado. Is the fact is that Harry Cochrane's such a great talent. Really. Last season was he came into the team and did particularly well. Bill and I heard that they were actually looking to put him out on loan, which I thought was a strange move. But he's hardly played this season. Is it the injury for the young player? Is that getting into to put a stress on the body, a body so young? Do you think that's what the reasons are?
I know for a fact there was a good piece, I think it was done by Barry Anderson in the Evening News about Harry Cochrane. Harry's probably had, I think, 6 or 7 either injuries or illness problems since the summer. He's just had a nightmare. He's got over one and another one's come down, and then he gets sick and he got ill and he hurt something as well. He just thinks it's one of those things. And all they were looking to do was maybe get him out on loan until the Christmas period and then bring him back in January. I don't think they'll do that now. But I mean, he's played 9 minutes this season when he came on late against Scott Brown Celtic earlier this season, and he's not played much. So again, he's getting back to full fitness, and that is an area that Hearts are well served in. They've got the Aussie lad Bozanic, who's in there as well. They've got options in there. What I'd like to see this weekend is Callum Morrison playing, because this is a kid who played really, really well in the game against St Johnstone, and then they benched him against Rangers, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, but he provides natural width. He's another youngster, a little bit older than Harry, but I think what it shows, he's only 19, and fans of Stirling will remember him fondly from a spell he had there when he scored 8, I think, in 16 in League 2. This kid's ready for the step up. He's 19 years old, and remember, Harry Cochrane's only 17, so there's a lot of youngsters ready to come through. But the good thing about Hearts this season, boys, is they haven't had to play them all at once like they did last season. So they can pick and choose the games, like Harry Cochrane, like Callum Morrison. But Morrison, for me, is the one to look forward to. And by the way, if you're wondering, no one seems to know why there is a rogue N at the end of Callum's first name, Callumn. Looks like a spell typo. Just weird. Maybe
his father, when he went to register him, had already celebrated the baby's head, he'd wet it.
And of course, they brought the boy over from Northern Ireland as well, Mark, who's out on loan at the minute. What's his name? Was it from Glenavon? Was it Billy? What's his name, that boy?
Billy Burns.
That's the boy.
Billy Burns.
Yeah, I've seen him a couple of times. He looks a good prospect.
Again, prospect's the key word, Bill. These are guys, they want to see what they can do. You've got to remember, it'd be interesting to
Bobby
see...
Burns Bobby Burns.
Bobby Burns, yep. How many of the top players in kind of Scottish... I remember, here's one going back, Bill, way back to the kind of mid-90s. I think it was just after my old Scott FM days. I was interviewing Kenny Miller in the old stand at Easter Road when he was on loan at Stenhouse Muir. There's a lot of players... Yes, I mean, but that's where you get your ground. I don't know if you ever went out on loan, Dave, but I'm sure you played with a lot of players that did.
I'm trying to put him out on loan now, Mark.
I only went out on loan in the latter stages of my career when a manager came to a club I was at and he didn't speak to me, and I went on loan to Kilmarnock, and then I think it was 33, and then the club that was loaning me out said they wanted 15,000 for me. So Kilmarnock paid the priceless sum of 15,000 and got them. I scored a penalty, get them promoted. So the rest is history. So they get their money back. It's a strange thing going in loan.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said, especially for the youngsters. Who are trying to make their way in the game, make a name for themselves as well. Because you ask, I remember Craig Patterson, who I worked with for many years. Yep. He played in the juniors, and it toughens you up. It's not this kind of namby-pamby all the time in the world. You play in the juniors, or you play in the lower leagues, League 2 or whatever, against good, honest pros with a bit of ability. If you try and showboat or whatever, they'll quickly let you know.
Well, Mark, can I just say something about the on-loan thing? Is like when I was at Dundee as chief executive, with a connection obviously with the old firm, and we brought Rangers players and Celtic players who'd, 19, 20, they'd only played in the youth sides, and when they came in and played, they were like caught in the headlights. They had not had, competitive football. They were playing against pros that would kick them, and I remember speaking to a player after the game that was on loan from Rangers, and he said to me, "I didn't realise it would be as tough as this. I thought I would actually, because I played for Rangers, I could come up here and actually, just stroll through the games. But this is a real. I don't think we do enough of that, in this country, to give players loans and actually see what the real world is, rather than being cocooned in the old firm in particular."
It's just different now, isn't it? I mean, you ask any of the boys, back in the day, Gary Mackay, John Robertson used to weed the terracing at Tynecastle. It's not like that anymore. But you've got to remain grounded. If you get put out on loan, two things. One, you can think you're better than you are, and it won't work for you. Or two, you can put your head down, you can work hard, you can come back, and you can make a name for yourself. Because there's a number of players that are maybe out of favour at clubs that have gone out on loan, done really well, been brought back, and then have just gone on from strength to strength. So that's your two options. Hopefully most of the youngsters that go out can actually take option two and put their head down, work hard, come back and see where it takes them.
Well, interesting times ahead for your club. There's no two ways about that. And as always, mate, it's always good to talk to you and catch up with you and hear your thoughts on the Jambos. Have a great day, because I know you're in the middle of the day, and I think you were doing some filming, and you're about to go and do some filming for ESPN. So we'll let you go, and thanks again, Mark.
Thanks, boys. All the best.
Cheers. Mark Donaldson from ESPN talking to us about the Jambos, who, of course, are still unbeaten in the league, and they've got a couple of injury problems now, Davey, that's going to test them. It really is going to test them.
Well, it is, but as Mark says, and I'm saying, sometimes you get players coming up to the mark and actually proving their worth, because they'll have been sitting on the bench and watching the games and thinking, I should be on. This is their big chance, so they really need to take it with both hands. So I think Craig Levine's obviously very experienced, and he's almost playing it down, saying it's business as usual, we've got enough players to come in. So, but Hearts have started very, very well. And their season could hinge in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think, just to see whether they continue to compete at the top, or indeed they get to the cup final.
A couple of wee tweets that have come in. Dave's last transfer came with a clause that the club subsidises mobility scooter. Unfortunately, they only managed Zimmer. Kidding, Dave.
Isn't he?
I never got a chance to ask Mark this, but he said, can you ask Mark who he thinks Hearts' biggest threat is, Rangers or Celtic? Another one here from Ken from Paisley. And it says, well done, lads, for talking about thorny issues around the game. Dave felt for you then, as I'm sure everyone did. So there we go. Yep. Anyway, normal service has been resumed.
Yeah, apologies. It was just...
don't apologise.
A great friend of mine at two clubs...
Listen, you're going to go walk about again if you keep on about it.
Say it's emotional simply because, Christians came out and wanted to talk about it. This player bottled it up and didn't want to talk about it, and he subsequently took his life, and it was sad for everybody, because what happens after someone does commit suicide, you start to think, should I have done something different?
Davey, I know exactly what you're saying. What could I have done, should I have done that, all the rest of it. There's a recrimination right across the board, but you know what? You can't help people if you don't know what you're dealing with, and that's the problem with football people particularly. And obviously as well, when you're dealing with footballers who have this hard shell because they think they have to. It is great now that Christian's talking about it, that Neil Lennon's talking about it, that other people are talking about it. It is absolutely, fantastic that is the situation. But there are lots of people still not talking about it.
No,
and we've got a long way to go with this, but making good progress.
And if people can start talking about it, there's a lot of support mechanisms in place now, and it's an issue that we've not tackled, and people didn't feel confident enough to do it, and I think that now there's a change, because too many people take their lives, and it's a sad thing when that it happens, and I just think now that the whole complexity of the things, and people are listening now, and if they see someone that's maybe struggling a wee bit, talk about it.
And here's something: just be a little bit more measured in the abuse you shout at players, because you don't know what's going on with them. Well, I know it sounds a bit glib, but it is a serious point.
Yeah, well, it is, but that's football, Bill. But see, at the end of the day, players can take that, but it's this thing that when you go away and you think about things, but that more and more people, Mark Fleming was on, was it last night or the night before, talking about things. It's recognising it and speaking to people, and if people are feeling, if you be aware of it now and look to it and actually tackle it and talk about these things, because people want people to talk about it with them.
Right, let's go back more upbeat again, because one of the success stories of the last season has been Kelty Hearts. They really have blazed a trail in the Lowland League, and they've announced today Barry Ferguson and Bob Malcolm appointed as manager and assistant manager. We're very pleased to have Ian Thompson, chairman of Kelty Hearts, on with us. Ian, first of all, congratulations on your new appointment. Why was Barry Ferguson your number one target?
Thanks for having me on the show. Why? Pretty simple, because it was we felt the right fit for us. As a club, obviously disappointed in Thomas tendering his resignation, which we accepted reluctantly. But when you look about, and there's guys like Barry Ferguson who's got a lot to offer, sitting in the house or sitting in studios, we made it our number one target, and we got in touch.
Ian, it shows a great deal of ambition, and I'm not being patronising there, and it's something that Kelty Hearts have not been short of ambition. It's been there for all to see, but you're obviously going to have to make financial investment in this appointment, and you've already financially invested in the club to a great degree. Are you happy that the finances stack up and that you're not kind of jumping the gun a wee bit? And I don't mean to be disrespectful on this one. No, we're absolutely fine with it. We're on a tight ship at Kelty, and our finances are we work very hard to generate the income that we do, and when we sat down with the numbers, with the financial people and our backers and our sponsors, we felt it was we could do it. So, when the financial people of your club come to you and say, "Let's do this," then you move. And we're, as I say, we're very comfortable with it. And as far as the club's concerned, we have a 5-year plan here, which is well covered. The playing side is structured as well financially. So we're very comfortable with it.
Ian, it's David McKinnon here. I admired last season. I sat in with Alex Horsburgh on the Saturday when you got obviously promoted from the East of Scotland League and then went through the playoffs into the Lowland League. Has it surprised you that you're now sitting top of the league? Because when you're out of league, you don't really know what the standard is. But does it surprise you that you're actually sitting at the top of the league just now?
It doesn't surprise me. I've worked with the management team and the players that we've got here at the club, and for as a chairman or as a board, when we sat down and looking at the 5-year plan, this year was about consolidating, because the players are better, the pitches are bigger. Some of the grounds, it's quite surreal for us to go to Broadwood and Falkirk Stadium and things. So we knew we would have to learn how to play the Lowland League way. But again, with the group that we've got here, and tonight, Barry's sat them down tonight and had a wee chat with them, and there's a willingness to do well for our club and for themselves, obviously. So to be sitting top is great, but we're only 9 games into a long, hard season. So we're realistic. It's a fine line between between success and failure. So we're realistic. We'll just keep doing what we do at the club, and hopefully at the end of the season we'll be in the mix.
Do you know something, Ian? The pyramid system has been tremendous, and you know, Kelty have been the trailblazers, because you know all the juniors have resigned to go into the East of Scotland League to try and get through this pyramid system. You've got a 5-year plan. Is that really what is obviously to get into the league? But you know, how far do you think that your ambitions would take you?
Well, I think the SPFL is a big step. You know, I mean, to win the Lowland League isn't it's a great achievement, but you've still then got to beat the winner of the Highland. And if you look at the stats over the last 3 or 4 years, Edinburgh City is the only team that's really to make it into the SPFL. So we realise how difficult it is to get there. But you know, we have ambition. We're driven. Trailblazers is a word that isn't used lightly. But you know, when we started on this campaign to try and make the club as good as it can be, we decided to make the jump. And what's happened below us now in the East of Scotland is quite incredible. When you look at the pyramid, and having spoken to other chairmen within the division, they've had a lift from it. You know, they're absolutely. I'm not saying terrified, but what's going on below the Lowland League now is quite incredible. Yep. You know, the 3 conference leagues have some cracking teams in there. It can only be good for Scottish football. It can only be good for lower league football. And at the end of the day, there's some decent big clubs sitting in these conference leagues who are desperate to be where we are. So, you know, we've got to stay focused, keep doing what we're doing, and hope that it'll be good enough.
Ian, let me just ask you, when did you decide, at what point did you guys at Kelty Hearts sit down and say, we're going for it? And I don't mean Barry Ferguson specifically, although that's another decision you obviously had to make. But, you know, when did you say, we're committing to this, and we're setting ourselves this target, and this is a timeline?
I mean, we've always, you know, I've been the chairman here for 40 years, and even way back in...
Took your time, have you not, then?
Yeah. I'm looking to retire soon. Aye. I mean, no, see, at the end of the day, you know, as an amateur club, we had ambition to go junior, you know, and when we went junior, we had an ambition to play, you know, in the Super League when it came about. You know, when we managed to win the Super League, the next step for us was obviously going into the pyramid. Now, we sat down. You know, I've got to say about 25 years ago, we went to a meeting with Fife Council to improve the facilities at Kelty, and you know, it took us 25 years to get what we've got now. You know, I feel for a lot of clubs now who are trying to go down the same road and trying to get the synthetic and the hub that we've got, the floodlights. But we've been trying to get that for 25 years. Now, in the last 4 or 5 years, it's came to fruition. And there's been a lot of investment for Fife Council, for the local community, from our own sponsors, from ourselves, to get to a position where we are. So the setup was geared for, you know, Lowland League football, a definitely a higher standard than junior for sure. And so now we see the next step, obviously, is to try and take the club into the SPFL, and that is our objective. You know, whether we achieve it or no, I'm not sure. But if we don't, it will not be for the lack of trying.
Well, certainly you've put down a marker that's your ambition, and you've got someone there now at the club as manager who's played at the very highest level. He's managed at the lower levels of the SPFL as well. So you're in a kind of good place as far as that's concerned. Let me ask you another question, if I may, and I hope I'm not going to tread on anybody else's toes, but has the for want of a better word, the apathy that surrounded Cowdenbeath over recent seasons, has that helped Kelty build because you've been so progressive and looking ahead?
I think it's unfair to compare us with Cowdenbeath. You know, we've got a lot of good friends down there. You know, I know Donald Finlay very well. He's you know, listen, Cowdenbeath have got their own issues, which, you know, over the years we've helped them out, and they've helped us out with players and stuff. You know, we're in a partnership just now with Dunfermline. They play their reserve games here at New Central Park. Their first team trains here every morning. So we work pretty well with our neighbours in Cowdenbeath and Dunfermline. So, you know, what's going on at their clubs is their business. You know, it's absolutely nothing to do with Kelty Hearts or Ian Thompson or whoever. We've just got to focus, like Cowdenbeath will have to do, you know, to get out the problems that they've got, if they can. And at the end of the day, you know, we have supported them in the past, and we'll continue to support them because Cowdenbeath have got a great tradition, they've got a great history, and they're only 3 or 4 miles down the road for us. You know, one of the things that we've done earlier on in the season is we do a Fife flyer, and we allow season ticket holders at Cowdenbeath, Dunfermline, Raith Rovers and East Fife to get into our games for £4 if we show their season ticket. So, you know, we're offering something different. We're offering them a game of football if they can't manage to get to their team's away games. And they come up and they wear their, you know, the good thing is they wear their scarves, their Cowdenbeath scarves, their Dunfermline scarves. They're coming up and they're supporting another local team, just like, you know, some of your supporters will go down to Cowdenbeath and support them if your team's away. So, listen, we work as a group of clubs. You know, we work well, I would suggest.
Ian, do you know, I've gone into your club. I know, you know, what your ethos is. It's a great community club, and you've got the community behind you. You know, your last game, obviously, last season to get promoted, there was, I think there was about 1,500 crowd there. What kind of crowds are you getting now? And what do you think the potential is?
The crowds have been absolutely brilliant. You know, we're getting something between 300 and 400 now. Right. You know, we sold something like 95 season tickets this year. Never sold 95 season tickets before. You know, I think the appointment of Barry, you know, when you go on social media and the forums and stuff, you'll see that there's a, you know, another wee you know, Rangers fans, you know, everybody wants to come down and support us now. So, you know, we're fortunate that things is happening off the pitch, but things are also happening on the pitch, and sometimes that's difficult to get at a football club. It's quite important for us to invest both on and off the pitch. So we hope that you know, the crowds will keep improving. I'm sure of that, and it's all about marketing, and we're quite good at that. So we just keep driving. You know, we've been quite fortunate that local companies have came on board and sponsored us and stuff. So, listen, it's a hard job for a group of guys for Kelty who just want the best for the football club. We're all volunteers. We all just do what we do, and at the end of the day, we've got to hope that our efforts at some time will pay off.
Well, I'm sure there's other clubs could look at your model and certainly look at your single-mindedness and your determination to do what's right for your club and learn a lot from it. Ian, again, congratulations on the appointment of Barry Ferguson as the new Kelty Hearts manager. Good luck for the rest of the season, and I dare say at some point we'll be talking to you and hopefully the manager at some point during the season as well as time progresses. Thanks again for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you. Ian Thompson, chairman of Kelty Hearts. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll talk more football.
Thursdays at 8 p.m. F1, Rally, Formula E, Touring Cars and MotoGP. The motorsport season is well and truly underway, and Rock Sport Radio is already spinning wheels and burning rubber. Andy Alston and Adam Todd are on the starting grid every Thursday from 8 p.m. to bring you news and comments on Pole Position, a petrolhead's dream. Try a lap or two with the guys. Pole Position on Rock Sport Radio.
The Trossachs is probably one of Scotland's best-known tourist areas, attracting people from all over the world. The Aberfoyle Inn is small and friendly and perfectly placed as a gateway to the Trossachs. Our 10 newly refurbished rooms offer comfort at great prices. Kick back and enjoy great food and warm hospitality in our bistro, or enjoy a drink, choosing from a wide selection of beers, wines and spirits. Whether soaking up the scenery or just relaxing, call us on 01877 382 573 or book online at aberfoylinn.com.
A great social event starts with great entertainment, and City Sound Entertainments are suppliers of mobile discos, DJs, race nights and fun quizzes. We also hire sound and light rigs. In fact, whatever your entertainment needs, City Sound Entertainments are there to ensure your event or function is a time to remember. Working to your requirements, City Sound Entertainments make sure things go exactly as you planned. Give City Sound Entertainments a call now on 0141 347 1960 and check out the website citysoundentertainments.co.uk.
Seventh Heaven is Glasgow's premier lap dancing club for premier entertainment in premier surroundings and especially for you. Quote, I'm on the Rock Sport Radio guest list for free entry. Seventh Heaven, open 7 days from 9 p.m. until 3 a.m. Find us at 15 Elm Bank Gardens in Glasgow. See more at seventhheavenglasgow.co.uk.
Love music, live sport. Talking Football with Bill Young and David McKinnon on Rock Sport Radio.
Right, my apologies, but at least people won't turn round and say, Rangers Radio, you're a blue nose, me. Hearts have been beaten this season. I said they were undefeated. Rangers beat them, of course.
Of course they did.
Comprehensively. So my apologies to all Rangers fans. Rangers did beat them. They are not undefeated anymore. So, see, with the international break, I forget what's happening in the season. So I'll be glad to get back to it tomorrow in Higgs. And I'll tell you what, Davey, I'm not being funny. And I mean this. I've always said that talking football is about talking all kinds of matters that affect the game in our country, and I think we covered that fairly comprehensively in one way or another. But this week particularly, I think there have been so many different issues that have been addressed on the programme, and I for one completely feel knackered. And we're not only at Thursday. Emotionally as much as physically, I just feel washed out this week.
Well, as in, so the subjects that are discussed, are get to the heart. But do you know something? Like I said to Jerry Collins when you were off that time, and I sat in your chair, which was a bit of a nightmare. But what I said to
Jerry... How was that a nightmare?
Well, we respect what you do is incredible, and it was difficult, but I get through it. But what I said to Jerry before we went on air, and that was his first night, remember? He says, what's kind of format? I says, Jerry, it's like me and you, two guys talking in the pub about football, about other things, and ultimately that's what it's about. And I think, listening to it, when I listen to it when I'm not on, I listen to it with intent, because, you go places that no one else will go to, and hopefully
I think we tackle it in a different way as well. We ask the questions, I hope, that the fans want the answers to.
Well, that's it, and I think that given by the reaction that we get for the fans are the guys that listen into it and the girls that listen into it are absolutely tremendous, because and it's no blowing smoke around, but some of the comments that you get in for Twitter, they're funny, they're humorous, but they bring out points that you and I don't think are. And we've been in the game a long time.
No, you're right.
Because people have got a passion for the game, and they think about it, and they come up with stuff. So, hopefully, that what we put out is good, and people feel it's like two guys talking in the pub, or three guys talking in the pub. And, when you get the Shuggy and the Murdo stuff on...
A Murdo back on Monday, by the way, guys.
That's it. Well, listen... Both Murdo and Huey will be hoping for a victory at the weekend, because if they don't, they'll be stuck in. Because Murdo will have withdrawal symptoms of not being able to stick one to Huey. But I was just talking to there. We're talking to obviously to Kelty Hearts chairman there. But I just looked and I thought, right, who are they playing Saturday? And I can't believe it. It's the Scottish Cup on Saturday.
Yeah.
The 20th of October. And we've got the second round of the Scottish Cup. And I'll be honest with you, I've heard players saying this, but I never knew that the Scottish Cup didn't start in January, and it was a player. Showed you what I knew. I just thought people turned up, and I thought that was the third
beginning
round
of it.
I thought that was the beginning.
You thought the third round was the first round?
That's it. Magically, I thought, how did these clubs... They must go into a draw or something like that, because it was January.
Oh, no, they have to fight for the right to get in against the big boys.
It starts way back, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So, if you look at that'll be a big test for Kelty. They go up to Peterhead. Peterhead, Jim McInally, always a good, strong team.
It's a great little ground to go to at Peterhead as well. I don't know if you've ever been.
Yeah, I
but
have.
Smashing little club and well run. The only thing I think they'll be a wee bit fed up with just now is in the last 3 or 4 seasons, they've always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. For some reason, they plough ahead during the season, get to where they need to be, and just can't finish the league.
No, you're right, and it's been difficult for them, because Jim McInally's he's the longest serving.
Well, actually, Jim Irvin, who's a reporter at Peterhead, will be at the game on Saturday, reporting pre-match, half-time, and post-match for us as well.
The other thing, Bill, is like when you actually look at the juniors team, and I don't know if any of these junior teams have gone into this East of Scotland League to try and get.
Sorry, David, just before you go on with that, I've just had a thought, and I never thought about this, but I'll talk to him tomorrow about it. Christian Naddy at Troon, our own John Redmond's general manager at Troon.
Well, great. Great, but
but you were going to say something about the juniors.
No, I was just going to say the juniors. I was going to say, there's some big names in there: Linlithgow Rose, Auchinleck Talbot. So you wonder whether these teams, Linlithgow Rose, I think they went into the Eastern League to try and get through this pyramid system. So big test for people.
Sorry, I've got a couple of things. We'll take it Dave doesn't mean any of my tweets. You guys are by far the best, most entertaining football radio show out there. And there's another one. Must be a great show. I talk to Bill on here more than I talk to my missus in months.
You too. You talk more in here than you talk to your missus.
That's true. I see people more in here than I see her, that's for sure.
You leave at early o'clock and you go back at late o'clock. But you love it.
That's what you do.
That's it. But no, it's great.
And talking about the show and going back to what you were saying, I mean, from my point of view, I've always said it. All I do is cross them in and you boys head them in the back of the net.
Well, yeah. Well, you've been known to set us up a couple of times, but having worked for you for a while, I can see it coming. So it's great. No, I just think the subjects are great, and I think the other good thing I like about it is the Monday and the Friday thing, where you're talking about the fixtures with Hughie and Paul Hegarty, and then you've got the Monday thing, and it's Hughie's. I love it when Hughie's expectation. Yeah, we'll do this and we'll do that, and then on Monday he's a different animal, isn't he?
I know he is. That's it for us for tonight, Mr. McKinnon. We'll be back next week. I'll be back with you tomorrow with Paul Hegarty and Hugh Burns, looking ahead to the fixtures now that we've got this international nonsense out the way, and we'll do that between 6 and 8. Don't forget the podcast's available later on if you missed some of the show.